Have you ever noticed this? When someone secretly resents you, they rarely confront you. They smile, they nod, they act polite. But underneath, there's a quiet tension, subtle, deliberate, and measured. And here's the unsettling truth. The most dangerous people in your life are rarely the loud ones. It's not those who argue or oppose you directly. It's the ones who hide their resentment behind soft words and calm tones. It's like a storm behind glass. No thunder, just pressure. Or a snake beneath leaves, still, silent, watching. You won't see it until it moves. That's how silent hatred works. It doesn't attack. It waits. It doesn't shout. It smiles. Because while they're standing beside you, they're not celebrating you. They're studying you, counting, waiting for a slip, and already preparing their move. So how do you recognize someone who secretly dislikes you, even when their words say otherwise? Let's begin. 1. They give you backhanded compliments. This is one of the most subtle, yet revealing signs of hidden resentment. It sounds like praise, but it doesn't feel like it. Their smile is friendly. Their words seem supportive. But when you walk away, something weighs on your chest. They say things like, "You're actually really smart for someone who didn't finish school." Or, "You've lost weight. I almost didn't recognize you." These are not compliments. They're disguised jabs, knives wrapped in ribbons. And when you question it, they say, "I was just being nice." But you know better. These remarks are intentional. They're meant to sound sweet while subtly placing you beneath them. They feed their own need to reassert control without openly challenging you. Because deep down, they can't stand to see you rise. And this is where Stoic wisdom gives clarity. Epictetus once said, "Mockery in disguise is still mockery. Let silence answer where ego intends to wound." In other words, don't take the bait. Don't defend yourself. Don't match their energy. Just observe. Backhanded compliments say far more about the person giving them than the one receiving them. They reveal insecurity, envy, and an internal struggle masked by fake encouragement. Let me share a quick story. A woman I know, let's call her Danielle, finally launched her own business after years of preparation. Most of her friends were supportive, except one, Michelle. Michelle said, "Wow, I never thought you'd be the type to take that kind of risk. Good for you, though." Danielle smiled politely, but she felt the sting. That wasn't support. That was condescension. Over time, the pattern continued. "Your store is so cute. It reminds me of something from a high school project." Or, "You've really matured. I used to think you were all over the place." Every compliment came with a subtle insult, and eventually Danielle stopped reacting. She didn't explain. She didn't defend. She didn't confront. She chose silence, and in that silence, Michelle's power dissolved. People who genuinely support you don't disguise it, and people who secretly resent you can't offer praise without a sting. Let that guide you. 2. They imitate you, but never credit you. Let's explore one of the more peculiar behaviors that reveals hidden resentment: imitation without acknowledgement. They watch you closely, how you speak, how you think, what you create. They start adopting your routines, echoing your ideas, even replicating your words. But here's the strange part. They'll never give you credit for it. They'll take your essence and wear it as if it were theirs all along. Your mindset becomes their new philosophy. Your style becomes their personal taste. And when asked, they'll speak as if it was always within them. That's not inspiration. That's quiet rivalry. The truth is this: when someone secretly resents you, they won't confront you directly. Instead, they attempt to mirror your brilliance, but erase your name in the process. Why? Because deep down, they admire something in you. But to them, admiration feels like submission. So rather than say, "You inspired me," they try to become you, while pretending you were never part of the picture. It's not about learning. It's about proving, to themselves and to you, that they're equal, if not superior. But real confidence doesn't need to borrow, and secure people never fear giving credit. What they're doing isn't growth. It's mimicry disguised as independence. And this is where Stoic clarity sharpens the lens. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "To envy is to silently admire while outwardly denying it." So when someone imitates you but refuses to acknowledge your influence, they aren't celebrating your example. They're trying to erase it. But here's the irony. The very act of imitation reveals your significance. They wouldn't copy you if you didn't matter. They wouldn't hide the source if it didn't wound their pride to admit who inspired them. Their silence is their confession. Then weeks later, a friend of his, Brian, launched a blog that looked familiar. Same layout, same structure. Even phrases Jordan had written showed up in Brian's posts. But not once did Brian mention Jordan. When people asked, he brushed it off. "Oh, I've been into this for years." Jordan didn't confront him. He didn't need to. The imitation was obvious, and the silence around it was even louder. So how do you handle this? First, don't seek validation. If someone needs to copy you to move forward, that already says something powerful about your presence. Second, keep creating, keep evolving. Imitators can only follow. They only move after you do. You stay ahead by remaining original. And finally, let truth defend itself. Your authenticity doesn't need applause. It only needs consistency. Because in the end, those who copy to compete aren't growing, they're chasing. And the most powerful response isn't confrontation, it's evolution. 3. They highlight your flaws in front of others. One of the clearest signs of hidden resentment is this. They don't confront you privately. They wait until there's an audience. Then, smiling, they strike. They'll casually bring up a past mistake, mention something you're insecure about, or joke about a moment you've already moved on from. They'll laugh. They'll say, "I'm just being honest," or "just messing with you." But you'll feel it, the sting, because that wasn't humor. It was a calculated dig dressed up as concern. Here's the truth. When someone secretly resents you, their cruelty won't show up as rage. It shows up as sarcasm, as helpful feedback, or as lighthearted teasing. But don't be fooled. It's intentional. They want others to laugh. They want the room to question you, even if just for a second. And most of all, they want to feel superior without looking malicious. This is how quiet resentment operates. It hides behind realness. It turns your vulnerability into ammunition. And that's where Stoic wisdom offers powerful perspective. Seneca once wrote, "The tongue of a bitter man is sharpened in secrecy," meaning when someone harbors envy or hidden anger, they won't raise their voice. They'll choose their words carefully. Their timing is rehearsed. Their jabs are measured. And their tone is mild, just enough to avoid accountability. If you react, they'll say, "Relax, it was just a joke." But you'll know better, because jokes don't leave bruises. Let me share a story. A man I know, Chris, was recently promoted after months of hard work. At a team lunch, while others congratulated him, a colleague, let's call him Eric, smiled and said, "Wow, they promoted you? I guess they forgot about that mistake you made last quarter." Everyone chuckled nervously. Chris froze. That mistake had already been resolved. It wasn't relevant. But Eric brought it up anyway, with perfect timing. Later, when Chris addressed it, Eric dismissed it. "Don't be so sensitive. You're a manager now. Learn to take a joke." But it wasn't a joke. It was a quiet attempt to diminish him in front of others. And Chris saw it for what it was. Because when someone secretly hates you, They don't challenge you in private. They perform for an audience. They seek subtle power through embarrassment. But real strength lies in restraint. And true self-respect means staying grounded, even when someone tries to shake your foundation. They minimize your wins. Let's talk about one of the more subtle but deeply revealing signs of hidden resentment. They minimize your success. They won't openly oppose you. They won't argue with your progress. Instead, they'll quietly dismiss it. They'll say things like, "It's not that impressive," or, "Well, anyone could have done that." They won't celebrate with you. They'll just tolerate your moment until it passes. When others acknowledge you, they grow quiet. When you rise, they look the other way. And if they do speak on it, their words come laced with just enough doubt to take the edge off your achievement. This isn't about your win. It's about what your win reminds them of. The goals they never pursued, the chances they didn't take, the potential they haven't tapped into. See, when someone secretly resents you, your success doesn't inspire them, it unsettles them. Instead of clapping, they start comparing. Instead of celebrating, they begin to distance themselves. Because giving you genuine praise would mean acknowledging that you've done something meaningful. And for someone whose self-worth is fragile, that can feel like a threat. This is where Stoic wisdom brings perspective. Epictetus said, "He who celebrates nothing in others reveals a drought within himself." Read that again. The inability to acknowledge someone else's growth often reveals a deep lack of movement within. They aren't minimizing your success because it lacks value. They're doing it because it shines a light on their own stagnation. Pretending your accomplishments are small is the only way they can feel tall. Let me give you a real-world example. A woman I know, Rachel, landed her biggest photography contract after years of consistent freelance work. It was a huge moment. She had earned it. Most people in her life celebrated with her, except for one longtime friend, Ashley. When Rachel shared the news, Ashley simply said, "That's cute, but photography is so oversaturated now, right? Hopefully they pay you something decent." No smile, no excitement, just a passive jab disguised as realism. Later, when Rachel posted about the shoot online, Ashley said nothing. But 2 days later, she uploaded her own photos, clearly styled in a way that mirrored Rachel's, with a caption about real art. No direct words. But the message was unmistakable. Ashley couldn't celebrate Rachel's win because she was too busy competing with it. So what do you do in situations like this? First, don't chase applause. You don't need their approval to validate your growth. Second, let their silence say what their words won't. Not everyone will clap, and that's okay. Third, be mindful of where you share your wins. Protect your peace. Celebrate with people who lift you, not those who quietly look for cracks in your joy. Because here's the truth. When someone secretly resents you, they won't fight your success. They'll try to reduce it. But their belittling doesn't shrink your achievement. It only reveals how small they feel beside it. 5. They quietly celebrate your failures. One of the most unsettling truths you'll come to realize is this. When someone secretly resents you, they don't just stay silent when you succeed. They grow quietly satisfied when you stumble. They won't laugh. They won't openly mock you. They might not say a single word. But their silence will feel different. Not the silence of concern, but the kind that carries a strange weight, as if someone's watching from a distance, not to help, but to enjoy. When life challenges you, their messages stop. Their presence fades, and in that stillness, you sense something deeper. This isn't absence. It's quiet gratification. Here's the hard truth. Your setbacks make them feel safe. Not because they wish harm upon you, but because your struggles ease their insecurities. They feel less behind. Your setbacks make them feel safe, not because they wish harm upon you, but because your struggles ease their insecurities. They feel less behind, less threatened, less reminded of what they haven't pursued. It's not about wanting to see you fall. It's about not knowing how to handle your rise. So when you falter, they don't lift you. They linger in silence, letting the moment affirm something for them. And this is exactly where Stoic insight cuts through the fog. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Observe who grows silent when your storms come. There you'll find the truth." That silence? It's not neutral. It's revealing. The people who genuinely care don't vanish in your difficult seasons. They don't need you to be shining in order to show up. But those who harbor quiet resentment, they only find comfort in your dimming light. And their absence isn't forgetfulness, it's restraint. Let me share a story. A man I know, David, went through a difficult breakup. It was painful, public, and emotionally draining. For weeks, he didn't hear from one of his oldest friends, Tyler. No call, no check-in, nothing. But months earlier, when David had landed a dream job and was beaming with confidence, Tyler had been distant, often dismissive, masking envy with humor. Now, as David faced heartbreak, Tyler finally reached out. Not with compassion, but with a quiet jab disguised as concern. "Breakups are tough, man. But honestly, you kinda had that coming, right?" It wasn't comfort. It was a quiet celebration, wrapped in a casual remark. He hadn't shown up to support. He had shown up to remind. That's not friendship. That's resentment, revealed. So how do you respond when someone disappears during your lowest moments? First, pay attention. Absence is not always accidental. Sometimes it speaks louder than words. Second, don't chase support from those who retreat in your pain. Your challenges are not their test, but they are your mirror. They show you who's truly with you. Third, protect your energy. When you rise again, and you will, remember who stood beside you and who silently hoped you'd stay where you were. Because when someone secretly resents you, they won't strike. They'll wait. They'll watch. And when the world does the wounding for them, they'll quietly whisper, "I knew it." And in that silence, they say everything. 6. They compete with you, silently. One of the most subtle and often overlooked signs of hidden resentment is this: unspoken competition. You never signed up for a race. You never positioned yourself as a rival. But suddenly, every step you take forward seems to provoke a reaction. You share good news. They share better news. You make progress. They find a way to announce their own. And whether it's a friend, a colleague, or even a family member, in their mind, life is a scoreboard, and you've unknowingly become their benchmark. Here's the quiet truth. When someone secretly resents you, your growth doesn't inspire them. It unsettles them. They can't celebrate you, so they try to outshine you. Not loudly, but subtly and consistently. You post a photo from a trip. They suddenly need a bigger destination. You hit a milestone. They feel the need to talk about theirs. It's never organic. It's reactive. They're not walking their path. They're chasing your shadow. And when you notice the pattern, they brush it off. "Oh, I've been meaning to do that too." But the timing always seems to follow yours. This is where Stoic wisdom clears the fog. Seneca said, "Compete only with who you were yesterday. Let others chase shadows." That's the essence of real growth. It's not about outpacing others. It's about becoming more aligned with who you are meant to be. When someone is fixated on your progress, they aren't evolving. They're performing. They're reacting to your movement instead of leading their own. And often, they'll deny the competition altogether. But you'll feel it in their quick responses to your wins, in the way they rush to match your steps, in the silence that follows your progress, until they have something to present of their own. Let me share a story. A woman I know, Olivia, launched a minimalist home decor business after years of dreaming about it. She put in the work, found her voice, and started strong. Her friend Nicole congratulated her, briefly. But 2 weeks later, Nicole announced she was starting her own online store. Same niche, same aesthetic. When Olivia asked about it, Nicole simply said, "I've always wanted to do this. You just reminded me." But the tone was off. The timing felt too convenient. And over time, Nicole began echoing Olivia's product launches, branding language, even captions. It wasn't inspiration. It was imitation masked as coincidence. Not collaboration, but quiet competition. Because when someone secretly resents you, they'll rarely cheer you on. They'll try to keep up, quietly, competitively, with a smile that doesn't quite reach their eyes. But your only true competition is the person you were yesterday. 7. They distance themselves. When you're winning, one of the clearest signs of hidden resentment isn't confrontation. It's quiet withdrawal. You start doing well. Your life begins to take shape. You find peace, success, happiness, and suddenly they disappear. They stop replying as quickly. They cancel plans without explanation. They scroll past your wins in silence. And while it may seem subtle, it's not random. It's not just busyness. It's a quiet protest. Because here's what people rarely say out loud. When someone secretly resents you, your joy becomes uncomfortable for them. Not because you're too loud with it, but because your light reveals the shadows they're not ready to face. Your growth forces them to reflect on where they've stalled. And instead of being inspired, they retreat, not out of forgetfulness, but out of discomfort. They were there when you were venting. They supported you in failure. But now that you're at peace, thriving, stable, glowing, they vanish. And that's where Stoic philosophy offers clarity. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Some celebrate your downfall more than they mourn their own." Think about that. Some people feel more at ease when you're low than when you're rising. Your struggles soothe their insecurities. Your success confronts them. So when they disappear during your highs, it's not accidental, it's emotional, and it speaks volumes. Let me share a story. A woman I know, Natalie, had a longtime friend named Erica. For years, Erica was her go-to during heartbreaks, job stress, and long, tearful nights. She was present, supportive, engaged. But when Natalie finally stepped into her season of joy, a promotion, a healthy relationship, a new sense of peace, Erica began to fade. She missed milestones. She stopped calling. And when Natalie got engaged, Erica's message was late and cold. "Congrats. Hope it works out." No warmth, no celebration, just distance. Natalie didn't lose Erica to time. She lost her to progress. Because some people are only comfortable beside you in pain. But joy? Joy exposes. Because when someone secretly resents you, they won't fight you. They won't argue. They'll simply disappear. Not when you fall, but when you fly. And in the space they leave behind, you'll find something even more valuable. Your peace, your clarity, and your freedom.